Okay, so let's proceed to the driving model. I hope some of you already tried to use it. If not, then you'll find out a little bit more during that presentation. And we'll have probably a questions and answers session as well a little bit later. So what do we have on the agenda? Why do I need that? Why do I need this module? How it can be used? How it can help me to maybe evaluate my business? The settings. So that one is pretty simple in terms of Wialon, but maybe a little bit more complicated in terms of hardware. And the output. So what result we're getting in Wialon? So the agenda is pretty short and simple. Let's try to find out why do I need that? Why do we need that module? How we can use it? First of all, for the fuel economy due to smoother acceleration and deceleration. So less acceleration, less braking, less harsh braking, the more you save. Driver's behavior can be controlled through the reports, and such reports can be then sent or used for the insurance companies, which is, of course, pretty good, I think. And you can get a discount, for example, if your drivers perform good, or vice versa. If they perform bad, maybe you need to do something with them. Lower vehicle wear-out rate. If a driver makes a lot of harsh acceleration, braking, and maybe breaks speeding rules, it definitely impacts the vehicle it drives, and so you will spend more on the repairs. Safety for the both people and cargo. I think that one is pretty straightforward. If you're driving good, then your cargo is safe and the driver is safe. Okay, so these are the bullet points that a little bit explain on why do we need that module. If you have something on your mind, please feel free to share with me. I would also appreciate any ideas on how it can be used right now or afterward. So, what we need to know in terms of settings. Of course, this module is heavily dependent on the equipment you're using, on the hardware you're using, and you can check if your equipment is supported out of the box. If it sends special parameters that, in most cases, you cannot even see in Wialon in the Messages tab. They are hidden, but still used by the driving module. To find out if your equipment is supported, you can log into the Gurtam.com page and navigate to the hardware and use this little filtration option, Eco Driving. I would have shown, but the laptop is pretty far, so we'll show it a little bit later. The list is not as small as it may seem. I have only 4 points here, but it actually contains over 30 different tracking devices. And again, they are sending special parameters that you cannot see, and they are much more accurate. If your tracking device is not in the list, how we can cope with this, how we can resolve this problem? Can we use the driving module for such devices or not? For example, you have a smartphone, you install the VIA tag. Can you use it for the driving? The answer is yes. You can use it. So this is the question of the problem. My tracker is not in the list. If you know the initial and final velocity of a car and the time between the two messages, you can calculate the acceleration. And also, if you know the heading, you can find out if it's a braking or an acceleration or a turn. So taking these two simple, simple parameters from a data message from any possible tracking device, we can calculate the acceleration, deceleration, and turns and use it for the driving module. So don't be afraid to use any tracking device, but do not forget that in terms of accuracy, of course, it will be much worse, unfortunately, and it is heavily affected by the time. Wialon allows to receive and store data and messages with the time difference of 1 second. So each 1 second, we can receive a message and store it in the unit's history. And so every second, we can calculate the acceleration. But just so you're aware, mostly the car accident lasts for less than a second, like 200 milliseconds maybe or so. So it's a very fast event. And again, it is better to use special equipment that is in the supported list at our hardware page. Okay. Not yet. Probably I need to pass to the laptop to show you the settings. For now, we'll keep it here. Maybe we'll learn something interesting from that slide. And now I'll try to show the settings in the interface itself and the result that we can get, the output that we can get in reports. Okay, so this is the hardware page. I already opened it up. The AVL hardware, and the filtration is at the bottom of that list. Eco-driving. So these are the tracking devices that support this module out of the box. Okay, over 30 different tracking devices. But let's move on to the interface. The module works on the unit properties, on the unit settings. If we navigate to the units and open any of them, we basically need to set up the Eco-Driving tab. This is the tab that allows us to build reports and to get results in the Eco-Driving application. The main question here is not about the settings in Wialon, probably, because they are pretty simple. This is the only tab we need to adjust. There are just a few buttons, but the main part, the main issue here is to define the criteria, the eco-driving criteria. We are providing some of the presets. You can see them on the eco-driving tab for the automobiles, for the truck, for the buses only. And this is our vision. We made some tests with our own vehicles. We then calculated some experience, gathered some experience from other partners. And so this is the result. It's like average for all trucks, for all buses. But they, of course, as you know, may be different. There are different trucks with different weight, maybe with a trailer, carrying different cargo, etc. So you can use these presets at the starting point. For example, I can delete everything. Just imagine that this particular unit is empty, no settings yet. Then I know that this is a simple car, and I just click add from the presets. All the criteria are added automatically, and I'm ready to go and even execute the report. So I don't need to make any other settings. But as I mentioned, it's a good starting point. Then you can change the settings. You can define your own penalties, you can add your own criterion, and even custom criteria can be added to control literally any sensor you have. If you want to control temperature and use it for scoring your drivers, okay, it is here. Choose the custom criteria, choose the sensor, if you have it, the temperature sensor, for example, and then define the values you want to control. So if the temperature drops below a certain point, a driver gets a penalty for that. I don't have the temperature for that unit, unfortunately, so I'll be using the default presets that I control in only acceleration, turns, if I'm not mistaken, yes, braking and speeding. So let's save it and jump to the reports tab. Here I already have two reports for a unit, as you might have noticed, and for a group of units. The report can be also executed for a driver and for a group of drivers as well. Let's check for one unit that I've set up. So it shows me some violations for Monday, Saturday, and Sunday. I don't know the exact date. Okay, it was yesterday actually. Okay, great. So these are some violations that were detected recently for my test unit. And what is the most important part here in the table? We get the penalty score and the rank. So we understand if this whole day was good or bad for a driver or for a car. We also can see the total mileage and the duration of the trips within this period of time, within this interval. It was for Monday. Then we can get, of course, all the details if we need to see each violation in details. A lot of violations here, 75 for the day, a lot of turns. Yes, a lot of extreme turns, mostly turns. Okay. We get the exact value. If it's an acceleration, turn, or braking, so we get the exact value in G's. And if it's speed, of course, we'll see speed. And if it's a custom criteria, so it will be just a value, like something. You evaluated something. Here, in this particular unit and some other from my group, I'm using averaging, which helps me to equally treat all the drivers or all the units that I have. Because mostly units and drivers, they make different trips with different mileage, and one person makes a lot of violations within a short trip of, let's say, 50 kilometers. Another person makes a few but pretty severe violations within a long trip of, let's say, 2,000 kilometers. And so we need to somehow treat them equally. For this, we can use averaging. Averaging can be set up in the unit properties again. In the eco-driving, you can see that I've already using averaging by mileage, which means that we take a violation and its penalty and then divide by mileage. So we summarize all the penalty points for that day, all of them. Then we take the total mileage, which is 266 kilometers, and divide them penalty by mileage. And this is the final result, 282 penalty points. And then we calculate, based on that, we can calculate rank. 2.7 is pretty bad. We have a 6 points scoring system. 6.0 means no violations at all. If we do the same, execute the same report for a group of units, let's try to do it for a pretty long period of time, we can get a little bit different result, like that. So this is the main difference between the report on a unit and a group of units. It allows us to get rating by violations and also apply the color scheme for that. So we understand who is performing better, who is not so good. For example, that delivery car number 8 is not as good as the others. 2.7 is a pretty low rank. It's a single option in the report settings, so there is nothing special about that. It's pretty simple to set up. You just need to navigate to the report properties settings and then scroll a little bit down to see the score-based rating color option. Just enable it and stick to the defaults. They're pretty good. If you want, you can, of course, change. You can switch to another mode and change the color scheme, but I think the default is working nice for that report. Okay, so this is the output we get in traditional reports in the monitoring interface. And another option for the eco-driving model is to use the application, which is called eco-driving. Here we also need to add, like in the report, we need to add the units we want to control. So let's add them to the list. define the period of time. Let it be like that. Wait for the system to calculate the violations. We can see that for the delivery track number 1, within the defined period of time, no trips were detected. The eco-driving works only for the trips. It doesn't work for stationary unit, basically. It was designed for trips. And here we pretty much see the same, or get the same results. The difference is that how the application outputs this result. When we click on any of these units, for example, the delivery car number 8, we can see all the violations on a map. A trip is also shown, and on the timeline, at the top of that window, we see the timeline. We get each trip and its violations. The higher this column is, the more penalty points we got for that trip. And so we understand that this trip was pretty good, relatively. That one was the worst, probably. Or maybe this one was the worst. Yes, this is the worst, 1.2. And when we click, we get the details for each trip. So we can check what was the violation detected for this trip. Here we can see that this, for the unit, only speedings were detected. Click on any of them, and the system will show you this violation on a map. You can get more details as well by clicking on an icon. So it displays pretty much the same result, but in a different way, simply. So these are the options to get an output in the monitor interface or in the application. Now, if you will have any questions, please feel free to ask, and then I will maybe tell you some more recommendations. But now we'll have enough time for questions. Yes, sure. Let's start with Valid. Please speak to the microphone.
Hi, Walid Al-Bashir from Inbound, Dubai. Regarding the setting for specific vehicles, like we do have a client right now who's deploying a specific Chinese buses, called King Long. So we find the standard eco-driving setting in the unit property, it is not giving the right result. So what would be the best place to source such data? Or do we have to get an accelerometer and do the testing? And how would the testing mechanism work? This is my first question. My second question, if you're working on climatic insurance product, I have been attending the previous FLSP session. We've learned about the integration between FLSP and Wialon. Which path would be advisable to take this path and then through the API try to work the stuff, or to get it directly from FLSP?
I will try to answer both questions, but the second one probably the most difficult for me. Okay, the first question was how we can find out those criteria. There are some presets, and as I mentioned, they are some kind of an average result that we got from different partners and from our own tests. You can use them as a starting point, but probably no further. And yes, you can define or develop your own criteria by doing tests, and some partners do it, and already did, actually. Or you can try to approach some local, maybe local companies that already have it, like insurance. You mentioned the insurance. Sometimes they have those criteria and they provide like a list and say, acceleration of that much is a severe violation, mild violation, or maybe extreme violation. And there are some information that is available in the open sources. For example, the German's Engineering Society, they have their own webpage where they posted the similar table for trucks, for example. If a truck has a certain weight, then the violation should not be more than 0.24 Gs, for example. If it is carrying a trailer, then the violation should start at 0.14 Gs. This is for an example only. So there is only one suggestion: to make some research. We don't have ready-to-use presets that we can tell, okay, it fits a van with a weight of that much, like 2 tons, for example, or it fits a small car, or it fits a bike. We don't have it because it differs. It depends on the local legislation. It depends on local regulations. But I can share you the experience that some partners approached the insurance companies and they gave these criteria. So they told, guys, we have it, we already have it, and you have a tool. So just they copied the settings to Wialon. That's it. So this is the answer probably to the first question. Second, here in Wialon you just get results. So you have reports. In Flaspy, you will need to develop yourself something from the scratch. So I don't know which option is better. This is the ready-to-use tool. It is adjustable, so why not to try it out at least? And then maybe move some experience to your own, copy some experience to your own solution, maybe.
If you're using this one, is it possible to remove the grouping while keep the detailization on the group report? Group report template, okay. It always comes with this. It comes with this aggregation, like the grouping part. If we remove the grouping part, it doesn't give the whole result.
It doesn't give a rank. It is absolutely correct. It cannot give a rank because it calculates a rank for a certain interval, for a trip, for a day. So we either
rank is understood. Rank is understood because it has to have data at that nested level to be calculated. But if we remove the detailization of the reporting, we do not get the whole list of events that's happening.
I'm not sure that you don't have the list. We can try it here.
On the group level. On the group level, if we remove the detailization, would we get the list of events still?
Okay, by default, the group reports are using a grouping by units. So if you cannot switch it off, maybe this is the problem.
Yes, because we are importing this report to a BI platform, in where it does the whole thing. So we need to do the data normalization in a way that does not have a grouping or
grouping. Okay, enclosed
so
grouping.
It does not duplicate the.
I got the point. Yes, you're correct that there is always some kind of grouping for group reports, at least by unit, always. And I don't know if these groupings can be avoided somehow through the API. Maybe.
Even we try through the API, but I think one of the updates that I've read about last week, that they're going to include the unit in the driver reporting, not the unit reporting, but we select the driver group of drivers. So maybe that solves out the issue. But we tried through the API. It will bring a lot the same values, but we need to filter the grouping out so we can maintain that.
I think that for the drivers, the result is pretty much the same. You still have the grouping, so the problem is similar to what we have.
What we do, we put it in a local database or whatever, and then we sort of mask out those headings, which has the stuff, so it doesn't duplicate the values.
So, right now, I definitely cannot answer because it's an API question. So, okay, anything else?
Thanks.
In the eco driving app, can you switch a bit?
In the eco driving app, okay.
the red and yellow cards, what exactly means or how we can read them?
Those are the penalty points that you get for each violation. And the star on the left is the rank. So it's the same as in the traditional reports in the Wialon monitoring interface. But it just added some icons here.
Okay.
So these are the penalty points.
Okay.
The average number of the penalty points for the whole period of time that we see on the timeline. For the whole period of time, yes. And
for the whole trips?
For the whole trips, starting from February till current date.
Oh. And this report match with the Wialon one?
Yes, they absolutely match with the Wialon reports. It's the same. It's just another interface. Yes. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Anything else?
Hi, sir. We're using a buzzer
Mm-hmm.
in our GPS system,
Mm-hmm.
and we tried to integrate it with the eco driving module. So sometimes it buzzes a lot because of simple, we believe that it's so sensitive
Mm-hmm.
based on the settings that we did, that on any slight braking or any slight turning, the buzzer rings. So what we did is we adjusted the customized settings a little bit, but still it doesn't work. So where do you think is the problem with that?
I think this question requires some more explanation and detailization, because in the eco-driving module we don't have notifications. So in Wialon we don't have something that can trigger an event of acceleration through eco-driving module. And thus we cannot activate a buzzer. So your question is probably all about equipment. Is that correct? Unfortunately, I cannot answer this question because it's not about software. It's about equipment only. You need to approach your hardware supplier and clarify this question with them. I know that there are such examples as well. With the sensitivity, the equipment should be positioned correctly, it should be tuned up. It's not as easy as it may seem, and here only manufacturer can help you. Some of our partners, they communicated with manufacturers for 1 year, to adjust the settings of the equipment, but now they are up and running pretty well. They're using only eco-driving, nothing else. So they are working with the eco-driving model only. No fuel, nothing, only eco-driving report is sent to the insurance companies. That's it. But they spent a lot of time, definitely.
Okay, thank you.
Can you please speak to the microphone? Just a second. Yeah. Here.
What's the difference between this application and the iDrive Safe?
That is a good question. iDrive Safe is kind of the first version of the eco-driving. The difference is that iDrive Safe basically doesn't have any settings. In the eco-driving, you have a lot of room to adjust the criteria yourself. So you add them, you define the sensors. If it's a custom criteria, you have a power to control everything. And then just get result. In the iDrive Safe, you log into the application, you kind of select the type of the vehicle, if it's a car, van, or bus, and that's it.
Exactly, but it's the same with the preset configuration in eco-driving?
The presets may be somewhat closer to what you have here in the Union's properties that we saw. A car, an automobile, a bus, a truck. But in iDrive Safe, as far as I know, there is also a van, for example, and the scoring system is a little bit different. Here we have 6.0, and in iDrive Safe we have 5.0 as the maximum rank. So it's different. The settings are hard-coded. You cannot change them. You just log into the drive safe, and there is no possibility to export it somehow. You don't get a report. You just get a result in the web interface. That's it. So it's fixed. You can, some like it. They just log in and get result, but don't know how it works. Here you know how it works because you can control it. You can define your own criteria. So this is the power of this module. Anything else? Any other questions? Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Pavel. And for this echo driving, actually, what we want is to add another elements into this because nowadays there will be more and more driver analysis based on the images or videos. So whenever we come this kind of analysis, analyze the results, firstly, can it be shown in this, no matter it is the monitoring interface or the echo driving app? And secondly, is it possible to add more proofs, for example, the videos into this module? Because we tried that, but even in the monitoring reports, it is not that flexible to add this kind of proofs on that, no matter it is the parameters or it is the media storage. But actually, we think that this will be more practical with the increasing of the accuracy of the video-based analysis. Because previously when we say the echo driving or driver's KPI, it's kind of just based on the driving speed, this kind of elements, but later we believe there will be more elements on this. So is it possible to work out on this?
The question for everybody to explain maybe a little bit on how to link the violations that we see here in the table with the pictures from the tracking device or a video.
Yes.
Right now, there is no such possibility, and you're absolutely right that it's pretty difficult to somehow combine them. Because we do have reports on the pictures, we do have the live streaming or a report for videos, but they are different reports.
Yes.
Different tables, let's say. And it's difficult for right now to somehow combine. It's the reality. Nothing like that is available right now. But luckily we have your question. So we'll probably pass it to the business development, business analytics team for further consideration. If they
Yes, because what we are seeing that is outside of Wialon or Gurtam, there are also some other providers, whether it is hardware or platform designers. They are linked at least this kind of image or video violations together with proofs. That is kind of the how to say more convincing proofs for detecting this driver is doing something violated.
Again, you're absolutely correct. I'm sure that if there is a speeding of 39 kilometers over the speed limit on the road, then a driver may request a proof of that, or maybe a picture of a speeding sign or something like that. Yes, it is absolutely clear. But right now we don't have it. With only two separate tables. One for the violations, one for the pictures. Like that, only.
Okay.
So, right now, nothing like that, unfortunately.
Okay. Thank you anyway.
Anything else? Any other questions? Who tried to use eco-driving? No one, except me. Who tried to use eco-driving module? Okay, a lot of people, including me. Yeah, so now I understand why there are so many questions. Again, it's a tool that allows you to literally control anything. You can control temperature, weight, seat belts, if you have a sensor for that. And it's relative. Yes, question, finally.
Not a question. Because of what you said, you can actually use to control other type of sensors in another type of application.
Not.
You said at the beginning, you can configure it so you can have a temperature, And if you do, and you can have a report. Sometimes you don't have that normally on a report, on a temperature report. You can only have it by doing it here.
Only here, yes. The penalty can be added only here. That's it. No other reports can do it. In another report, you just get the result that the temperature was low, high, or mid, in the mid-range or something like that. But in eco-driving, you can assign a penalty score, and if it's too high and you are carrying some sensitive cargo, then it will be registered as a violation. And you see this driver was performing bad. And you can take actions, and you can save some money on that if you know that this and that driver is performing bad. Maybe leave only those who are working good. Sure. Question, microphone.
Yeah, my question is it possible to see the name of the driver or to find a way to integrate the name of the driver?
You mean to display a driver?
Yeah.
Yes, it is possible. The point is that I don't have drivers in my test account, so that's the only reason for that. I'm using units reports, but yes, there is a driver's report as well. We can even find in the eco-driving application. There is, I didn't get the whole drivers. So there is a tab for drivers. And you can execute the same report for drivers to see when this person was working with different units. And so you will get an accumulated rank for all the trips with all the kinds of vehicles. So it is also possible. Question?
Sorry, another question. Eco-driving is an open source. We can see it in GitHub.
Yes.
Is it completely open source? I mean, we can customize, we can, whatever. There are some proprietary part in that.
In terms of customization, like changing something like a logo, yes. But in terms of algorithms, I am not sure. I cannot answer these questions right now. Okay.